Hey, welcome to The Explainer. We're all about breaking down really complex stuff into something you can actually get your head around. So today, we're jumping right into the Nexus War Room, and we're going to look at how its pretty unique take on memory tries to fix a problem that, let's be honest, drives us all crazy with AI tools. First, we'll do a quick tour of the interface. Then, we'll follow an idea from just a simple chat all the way to a real structured project. After that, we're going to peek under the hood and see what this memory core is all about. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at the big picture, this idea of a single collective intelligence. Ready?
All right, so let's kick things off with a problem that I bet feels, well, really familiar if you've ever used any AI tools.
You know how it is, right? We have these mind-blowingly powerful AIs, but every time you start a new conversation, it's like hitting the reset button. It has zero long-term memory. No clue what you talked about 5 minutes ago. You find yourself repeating things, explaining the same context over and over again. It's like you're working with this super genius colleague who, unfortunately, gets a complete memory wipe every single morning. But Nexus? It's built on a totally different idea. And this quote really nails it. Agents are interfaces. Nexus is the mind. The whole point isn't to make a ton of separate amnesiac agents. No. The goal is to build one single central brain where context is never lost. The tools you use, they're just different windows looking into that one powerful mind.
Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But how does it actually feel to use it? What does it look like? Let's step inside the main hub, the command center they call the War Room. Everything you need is right here on one screen, and it's split into 3 main panels. Now, this layout isn't just for looks. It's actually designed to guide your workflow in a really logical way. You basically move from big picture strategy on the left to messy brainstorming in the middle, and then to a structured plan on the right.
So over on the left, that's your strategic view. Think of it as your mission control. This is where you organize all your work. You've got big picture products, your major goals, and tucked inside those are your smaller, more specific projects. It's perfect for getting that high-level, 30,000-foot view of everything you've got going on.
Now, the middle panel, that's your main workspace. This is where the magic happens, in what they call sessions. And a session is pretty much what it sounds like. A focused conversation, a brainstorming sprint. It's where you and the AI can just hash things out, throw ideas around, capture important decisions. It's the creative and sometimes messy part of the process. And then finally, on the right panel, you take all that creative energy from the middle and give it some real structure. This is where you build the actual plan. It's like a family tree, but for your project. Components, subcomponents, right down to individual files. This is where the abstract ideas from your session become a concrete, organized architecture.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Let's walk through how a user would actually use these 3 panels to take an idea from just a spark to a full-blown plan.
The flow is actually super smooth. So imagine you have a new idea. You'd probably start a session right there in the center panel, just to riff on it. As that idea gets a little more solid, you can link it to a specific project over on the left panel to keep things organized. And then the really cool part is you take the key takeaways, the decisions you made, the requirements you defined, and use those to build out your architecture tree on the right. And it's all happening right there, in one place.
Okay, so that's the user experience. But now for the really cool part. What is actually happening behind the scenes that makes this whole thing feel so smart and, well, so not forgetful?
So think about it. Most AI systems, when they need to remember something, they have to reread the entire chat history, the whole thing, which, as you can imagine, is super slow and inefficient. Nexus does something completely different. It doesn't care about the conversation itself. It cares about the structured information it can pull out of that conversation. It's like it throws away all the ums and ahs and just keeps the golden nuggets, the decisions, the requirements, the core ideas.
This quote really is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. The chit-chat is temporary, right? It's just raw material. The thing that actually matters, the asset that gets stored in its memory forever, is that structured record, that one key decision, that specific requirement. That's what lasts.
And all this extracted state gets stored in something called the extracted record layer. Now, don't think of this like a boring text file with your chat history. It's more like a super smart, structured database of meaning. It's built to hold the actual concepts that came from your talk, not just the words you used to get there. So how does it do this? Well, it's a 2-step process. First, something called a refinery sucks in any raw files or inputs you give it and cleans them up. Then, a parser listens in on your live chat, kind of like a personal assistant taking notes in real time, and it pulls out all the important concepts. And those clean, structured ideas are what gets sent to the memory core, where they become a permanent, recallable part of the system's brain. Okay, so why all this complex stuff? What's the payoff for you, the user? It's one word: continuity. It's that amazing feeling of being able to walk away from a project for 3 days, come back, and pick up exactly where you left off, without missing a beat.
Just imagine it's Monday morning. You open up a project you were working on last Friday. A normal AI would have to chug through gigabytes of chat history just to get back up to speed. It'd be slow, expensive, and just painful.
But Nexus uses this clever trick called hot context words. It's just a tiny, active set of keywords that grounds the current session. And these aren't just random words. Each one is like a direct hyperlink, a pointer, that connects right back to a rich, structured memory in that database we just talked about. And you can see a great example right here. When you jump back into a project, the system doesn't need to load the whole history. It just loads these few hot words. And they act like hooks, instantly yanking all the important stuff, the concepts, the decisions, the open questions, right out of its deep memory. Your entire project context just snaps back into place, like instantly.
Which brings us to this really critical point. The thread gets cut. The relevance does not. The messy back-and-forth chat can be thrown away. It's disposable. But the actual understanding, the knowledge that was built, that's permanent. It lasts forever, ready to be pulled up at a moment's notice.
And all of this, the UI, the memory core, it's all building up to the final and honestly biggest idea behind Nexus, and that's the concept of the collective mind.
See, the point of all this isn't to create hundreds of smart little agents, each living in its own isolated memory bubble. No way. It's about building one shared intelligence, a single collective brain that any tool you use, for coding, for planning, whatever, can tap into and also add to.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. What happens when we shift our focus away from just remembering raw, messy conversations and toward remembering structured meaning? We can start building tools that aren't just assistants, but are true long-term collaborators. Tools that remember, that understand, and that build on a shared history with us. So, just think, if our systems never, ever forgot what truly mattered, what could we build then?